I'm not here to make you feel bad about your money habits. Trust me, I've made every single mistake on this list myself more than once. Some of them I'm probably still working on if I'm being fully honest with you. But these are the sneaky money mistakes that so many of us moms make without even realizing it, and they don't show up as one big dramatic loss. They show up as $5 here, $20 there, a decision made in a rush at 10 p.m. And when you add all of that up over a year, it can quietly cost you thousands of dollars. Not because you're bad with money, because nobody ever sat down and pointed these patterns out to you. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to go through 5 of them one by one, and by the end of this video, you're going to have a clear, simple fix for each one. Let's get into it. Number 1. You're the family's convenience buyer by default. Here's what this looks like in real life. It's Tuesday night, you're making dinner, and your kid casually mentions that they need poster board and markers for a project due tomorrow. Or it's Sunday morning and you realize you're out of the one specific snack your toddler will actually eat, and there's no way you're getting through the week without it. So you drop what you're doing, you drive to whatever store is closest, and you pay whatever that store happens to charge, because in that moment, the price doesn't matter. Getting it done matters. This isn't a personality flaw, it's a structural thing. Because moms are usually the default household manager, we end up being the ones who catch almost every last-minute need before it becomes a crisis. And convenience purchases, the ones made at the nearest store instead of the cheapest one, at full price instead of on sale, in a rush instead of planned, are almost always priced higher, sometimes 20, 30, even 50% higher than the exact same item bought with a little bit of planning. The sneaky part is that no single trip feels like a big deal. It's $8 for poster board you could have gotten for $3. It's a $6 box of snacks you normally get for $4. Individually, none of that registers as a problem. But multiply that by every mom, every week, all year long, and you're talking about a meaningful chunk of money that just quietly leaked out of the budget. The fix is genuinely simple, and it doesn't require you to become a different kind of person. Keep a running list on your phone, in the Notes app, in a Reminders app, wherever is easiest for you, of things you're low on before you're actually out. The moment you notice you're getting close to the end of a box of something, or you remember your kid mentioned needing something for school next month, it goes on the list. Then, on your normal shopping trip, or when something goes on sale, you buy it ahead of time. You're not trying to predict every emergency. You're just giving yourself a small buffer of time between noticing a need and actually needing it. And that buffer is where the savings live. Number 2, you're not tracking what you spend on your kids specifically. Most family budgets have a line item that just says kids. And honestly, that line item is basically useless because it's trying to hold too much at once. Clothes, activities, school fees, birthday parties, random toys from the checkout aisle, that field trip fee you forgot about, all of it gets dumped into one number. And because it's one number, you never actually see where the money is going within it. You just see the total, shrug, and move on. Here's the exercise I want you to try, and it only takes 1 month. Break that single kids category into subcategories. Clothing, activities, so sports, dance, music lessons, whatever your family does. School, including supplies and fees and fundraisers, gifts for birthday parties and holidays, and entertainment, which is things like movie nights, arcade trips, that kind of thing. Just track it for 30 days. You don't need a fancy system. A notes app, a simple spreadsheet, even a piece of paper on the fridge works. What happens almost every single time someone does this exercise is they're shocked, not by the total, but by which category is eating the biggest chunk. A lot of moms assume it's clothing, because that's the one that feels the most visible and the most frequent. But very often it turns out to be activities or gifts for other kids' birthday parties, categories that feel small in the moment but add up fast because they're recurring and easy to underestimate. Once you can actually see the breakdown, you're not guessing anymore. You can make an intentional decision. Maybe activities really are worth the investment, and you keep that number where it is. Maybe you realize you're spending more on other kids' birthday gifts than you'd like, and you set a simple rule, like a $10 cap per gift. Either way, you're deciding on purpose instead of finding out by accident 3 months later that the kids' category blew the whole budget. Number 3, you're using mom guilt as a financial decision maker. This one is a big one, and I want to say clearly, this isn't about you caring too much. It's the opposite. It's because you care so much that guilt sneaks into your spending without you even noticing it's happening. Think about the purchases that happen because of a feeling, not a plan. You worked late again this week, so you say yes to the toy at the store you would have normally said no to. You had to miss the school event because of a work meeting, so that night you order the expensive takeout, or you buy the thing your kid asked for as a kind of silent apology. None of these are bad choices in isolation. The problem is what they have in common. They were never in the budget in the first place. Guilt-based spending is, by definition, unplanned spending, which means the money for it has to come from somewhere, and usually it's quietly borrowed from a category that was meant for something else, like savings, or the grocery budget, or the fund you were building for a family trip. The fix here is not to try to stop caring, and it's not to white-knuckle your way through guilt and refuse to ever say yes in those moments. That's not sustainable, and honestly, it's not even the goal. The fix is to plan for it. Build a small, guilt-free buffer into your monthly budget, on purpose, ahead of time. Even something small, $20 or $30 a month, set aside specifically for those moments when guilt shows up and you want to do something about it. That way, when the moment comes, and it will come because it's part of being a parent, you're not scrambling and you're not pulling from somewhere else. You already have a plan. You get to say yes without the financial whiplash that usually follows. Number 4. You haven't updated your insurance and beneficiaries since having kids. This one is different from the others because it's not really about spending too much. It's about a gap, a quiet financial blind spot that most moms don't think about until it suddenly becomes urgent. And by then, it's often too late to fix it the easy way. Here's what tends to happen. You set up your life insurance, your health insurance elections, your beneficiary designations on your retirement accounts or your bank accounts at some point, maybe before kids, maybe right after your first one was born. And then life moves. You have another baby. Maybe your income changes. Maybe you got married or divorced or moved states or changed jobs and got a new employer-provided policy. But the beneficiary forms, the coverage amounts, none of it gets revisited. It just sits there set on autopilot from years ago, quietly not reflecting your actual family anymore. I want you to think about this for a second. If something happened to you tomorrow, would your life insurance payout, if you even have one, be enough to actually support your kids for a meaningful stretch of time? Are the beneficiaries listed on your accounts the people you'd actually want receiving that money today, not 5 years ago? For a lot of families, the honest answer is, I don't actually know. And that not knowing is the whole problem. The fix doesn't require a financial advisor appointment or hours of research to get started. Block out 30 minutes this month. Pull up your life insurance policy and check the coverage amount and the beneficiaries. Check your health insurance elections, especially if you've had a life change like a new baby or a move. Check the beneficiary designations on your retirement accounts and any bank accounts that allow them. It is not a glamorous task. Nobody's making a satisfying video about updating a beneficiary form, but it might be one of the single most protective financial moves you can make for your family, and it costs you nothing but 30 minutes of your time. Number 5, you're saving whatever's left instead of paying yourself first. Last one, and this might be the most common pattern of all 5. Most of us save whatever happens to be sitting in the account at the end of the month. And if you're being honest with yourself, that number is usually pretty close to 0 or close enough that it doesn't feel like it's making a dent. This isn't because you're not disciplined enough, it's because of a very simple, very human truth. Life expands to fill whatever money is available. If there's $100 sitting there that hasn't been claimed for anything specific yet, something will eventually claim it. A grocery run costs a little more than expected. An unplanned expense pops up. The money gets absorbed before it ever makes it to savings, and it happens so gradually that you don't even notice it happening. The fix is to flip the order completely. Instead of saving last, you save first. The moment payday hits, before a single bill gets paid, before a single grocery trip happens, a set amount, whatever you can realistically manage, automatically moves into a savings account. It doesn't have to be a huge number to start. Even $50 a paycheck, moved automatically before you can second guess it or spend it, builds a completely different habit over time. Instead of hoping there's something left over to save, you build your life around what's left after saving. The habit does the heavy lifting, so your willpower doesn't have to. So that's all 5. The convenience buying, the untracked kids spending, the guilt-based purchases, the insurance and beneficiaries nobody's looked at in years, and saving last instead of saving first. None of these are about being irresponsible with money. Every single one of them is completely fixable, and most of them take less than 10 minutes to actually correct once you know they're there. That's really the whole point of this video. It's not about shame, it's about visibility. You can't fix a pattern you can't see. If you recognized yourself in even one of these, and I'd genuinely be surprised if you didn't recognize yourself in at least 2, that's not a failure, that's actually the first step to fixing it. So pick just one from this list, the one that hit closest to home, and do something about it this week. Not all 5, just one. That's enough to start. If this was helpful, let me know in the comments which one hit the hardest for you. I read every single one. And if you want more videos like this, breaking down real money patterns without the judgment, make sure you're subscribed because I've got a lot more of these coming. I'll see you in the next one.